Hey, my name's Josh, and we are in the Chandelier today. It's a new wedding and event venue in Des Moines. We're in the Highland Park neighborhood. Today I'm here with the Poor People Podcast. And I'm gonna make a drink for y'all. So this is called the Colorado Bulldog, or if you're where I'm from, or close to where I'm from, in North Dakota. In Canada, it's also called a Paralyzer. So we're going 1 part vanilla vodka, another part Kahlua, and these are pretty heavy pours in here. Coke to fill. And then we're gonna add 2 versions of cream. Just a little bit of half and half, a little bit of Bailey's on top. I'm gonna give it a single roll. It takes a little bit of the caffeination experience out of the Coke, but this kind of tastes like a milkshake scenario. Colorado Bulldog, enjoy.
I'm gonna freehand it, dude. I'm just kidding. All right, welcome to Poor People.
Welcome to Poor People.
Hello.
We are here today at Chandelier with Josh Law.
Hey,
Yeah, took a little bit to get started here, but we're rolling now, so that's good. All right, well, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you got into the industry, a little bit about Chandelier, how it all started.
sure.
The run through.
Yeah, I can kick it off from the from the start. So I first was in the food and beverage industry as a waiter. I think like most people who eventually come into bartending kind of start doing that. And then did some bar backing and then did some like dinner service bartending. So it was something where you could take plenty of time. The recipe was in front of you, not really fast paced, nothing much going on. But this is just a small restaurant in North Dakota where I'm from. So that's kind of where I got started. And then the next spot I was in for the longest amount of time, and I think had the biggest like cumulative effect on myself as like a bartending person. And I was at a place called Borrowed Bucks Roadhouse in Grand Forks, North Dakota. It had a like garage theme, like a car garage theme. Okay. So we wore these shirts that were like these old style vertically striped like car mechanics type of shirts with a little patch on it that had your name.
Oh, nice.
Which was very cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And then my touch was that I always wore a pocket square in it. So it was like,
Yeah.
you know, we're classy.
Class it up.
Right? Everyone else is just like, they're stained, they're gross. Like we only had like 2 a piece and we still did like 4 or 5 shifts a week or whatever. So, you know, they'd seen better days, but mine was classy for sure. So when I was there, I worked security, tequila bar, and bartending. And so that was a very fast-paced environment. We had a gun, and it was a dance club.
Oh, wow.
So
Wait, like while bartending, you had a gun?
So number 1 was tequila, number 2 was vodka, number 3 was Captain Morgan, that kind of gun.
I was like, wait a minute, hold
So
on.
it poured them out, and this was, I haven't seen this in many places, but back in the 90s, there was all these like magazines I used to read from, and it was like one of the things they were trying to do was like portion control. So they'd do a gun, and then they would control exactly, this is 1.2 ounces of liquid instead of 1.25 or 1.5 or whatever. So it was a very fixed amount of, it was like, you want a shot of this? You push the button, pour it in the glass, fixed amount. So that was like kind of a cost measure thing that they had in place. But these lines ran like hundreds of feet into the basement, and then they had like multiple, like they had to refill them occasionally, but they'd have like, you know, Morgan. They'd have like 10 bottles all stacked. And then it would like run all night and they'd open some bottles and refill them. And I don't know. It's just kind of a weird
like
system.
That at Adventureland.
I don't know. I've never heard of
Adventure Bay.
that at all. Like having Captain Morgan like come out of your soda gun.
Right. Yeah. So it'd be like, you know, you'd hit 3 in Coke and that'd be your rum and Coke. And you know.
Okay.
So it was very fast paced. The idea was that we also had, they didn't really call them waiter or waitresses, but just like servers kind of out. And one other thing that was cool there is that we had the shot girls, and I was a shot boy, of course. I was a shot boy. which was very unique because I don't know, I just had a very outgoing personality and that sort of thing. So I learned to work security, take IDs, pour tequila shots, joke around with folks, and that sort of stuff, but also a love of dancing because this was like line dancing. I can two-step.
Okay.
Your boy can, what is the triple step? Papa. What's that?
I don't know. Like a
Waltz?
Not a
Is that what
waltz.
you
It's
mean?
it's
salsa?
The,
Tango?
no, but we're so close. We're so close. It's like old Norwegian sort of.
Like the pole dance things, like where they like click the poles together. You know what I'm talking about?
It's grade school education, and I'm pretty sure.
that is it's like Scandinavian, like actual like traditional dance. I think I'm pretty sure.
It'll come back to me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We'll circle
so
back.
so I can swing, I can East Coast swing, like all that sort of stuff, and I got to do it like on duty, right? So if it was Monday night and there was nothing going on, and like I was making things happen, dancing with patrons and stuff like that, and it's like it was a fun time. Like it was just a great place to be, great vibes. Of course, it was a 2 a.m. bar, so not quite a Roadhouse license. I did work at a Roadhouse place in Chicago, but you know there were some fights and stuff like that. That was a very normal for that environment. But in addition to that, there were a few people there who were really interested in like the cocktail, just like why are we pouring just rum and coke and seeing what happens. So I got kind of initiated into that kind of like, oh, what's your after work drink? Well, let's try a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So that's where I worked kind of my longest period of time. And then I, for a very short time frame, like 3-4 months, something like that, managed a bar that was being built in like inside a hotel. So there like wasn't much going on. I was just the guy who like made sure that the till was straight at the end of the night. We had like 5 guests at the most that kind of came from the hotel. So it was so early that it wasn't a popular enough bar yet, but it was kind of my first bartending or head bartender or manager kind of type of role. Between college and moving to Chicago, I worked at a lakeside bar. It was called Dockside. It was on Lake Metagoshi, but it wasn't on Lake Metagoshi. It was like 2 miles out in the country. Tell me how much sense that makes to call that bar Dockside.
Yeah.
Nowhere near water. Drive out in the middle of the country, like literal gravel roads, take a right at Smith's Hay Bale. That's where Dockside is. It's like middle of nowhere. Why on earth is this out here? But that was a very fun place too. And that was one of the places that I learned, developed a love for the bulldog, the Colorado bulldog or paralyzer. Learned a couple different varieties of that there. Then I moved to Chicago. And while I was there, that's when I started my entertainment company. And then from there, what I did the most often was banquet service, right? So that's just, you got what you got behind you, you got a bucket of ice. It's generally very simple. But also just in kind of consumption and being in the food and beverage industry, I would be interested in like who are doing the coolest cocktails and kind of just experiencing that sort of stuff. So I was taking more in than I was participating in working. But I was primarily being a wedding DJ at that time, but I ran that company. Now it's roughly 16, 17 years since I started that company.
Wow, yeah.
And that's kind of where Chandelier came from.
Okay. So then how long has this place been here then? Or how long have you been like renovating Chandelier and doing all that?
So Chandelier, as far as I've been involved, has been roughly about a year. And so we're talking about like negotiations, figuring out stuff and that sort of stuff. But we opened the doors, had our very first event November of last year. And that was like a creepy Halloween sort of variety show, which was kind of cool. But yeah, now we didn't have it then, but we have our liquor license in place. We're ready to rock. We're ready to do weddings. I don't know when this is going to go up, but we have a double header country music Thursday and Friday this week. So we're doing that kind of stuff, and we're probably most going to be known for doing weddings, but also just for music and events, and never really being a bar, but always kind of an entertainment with a bar experience.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say too, this whole bar looks awesome because when I was here the last time, it was like for a variety show and I was filming and I mean, the bar was just a table. Like it was just a table with like a sheet over it, you know?
Yep.
And so like,
You got to start somewhere.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what we did for Poor Wars.
Yeah.
So like, but it's cool to see this now because I mean, that was maybe, I don't know, 2 months ago or something like that. Maybe 3 months ago when I filmed that. So, I mean, in that time, you've got this whole thing. And I mean, this all looked different too. There was like seats everywhere. And
Yep.
so it's cool that like, not only this big open space is here, but the bar looks also like awesome also.
Yeah.
So
Now, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that until you've kind of done it yourself at some point, like you hear kind of the like, what is the measurements of a bar? Like how high do you want it? Do you want it to be seated height? Do you want people to be able to sit on a stool and be at the bar? Do you want them to stand for service? How far do you want the overhang to be? How, you know, and so then you have to go into like, what kind of equipment do you want underneath? Do you do the electric in first, or you know what I mean? So it's just been kind of navigating like, well, first I need the electrician, and then I need the guy to build these 3 components, and then I need the electrician again, and then I need the guys to plumb the water. So we got to get a you know what I mean? It's just been kind of a like, it's more complicated than it looks to just put up a bunch of wood and call it a bar.
yeah, absolutely. Well, so then how did you guys do this? Did you have to have all this custom made or did you just like get it shipped in or?
So what we did is we found a piece that we liked that kind of evoked the time frame, the classicness, and that sort of stuff, and then had it essentially custom built.
Cool. Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
all the stuff is super cool.
Thank you.
The perfect size, I think, too.
Yeah,
Here.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, especially for it being a wedding venue too. Like you guys could have like 2 or 3 bartenders, you know, back there and like
that was the
getting
idea.
drinks out and, like,
Was 2.5 butts.
Yeah.
2.5 butts of bartending.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
I don't want 3 people in there all the time, but
Yeah.
right.
you know,
Yeah.
that's the amount of space, and I wanted it to be relatively spacious. I didn't necessarily want people to be kind of stacked on top of each other and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about our soup of the day. So it's Colorado Bulldog.
Yes, I haven't tasted this yet.
Oh
Cheers.
yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, friends.
Roast.
Anna, did you drink yours already?
No, I have water.
Oh, that's really
And
good.
I just lost my cap, so now I really got to drink it.
I love White Russians, but I always thought Colorado Bulldogs had Pepsi in it.
I mean,
I mean,
Coke.
Coke, Pepsi.
is
Oh, did you
Pepsi.
put Coke in it? Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
see
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I was holding the boom mic. My arms are getting tired and I
No,
started
and then-
blacking out.
and this is my kind of like my preferential top shelf. I'm making it for myself. I'm making it for friends and family who know it. So the normal recipe is vodka, Kahlua, Coke, cream, maybe roll it, maybe not, depending on who you ask and the proper bartending, whatever. But the way that I do it is a vanilla vodka. I used to use Stolichnaya vanilla vodka.
Wait, how do you say that?
Stolichnaya?
Anna, try to say that.
I don't
No.
know the way like it's a
Stoli.
Russian.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
it's a Russian vodka.
Yeah, well,
But,
I
like,
knew
people be
I
like,
knew that.
Stolichnaya, but you say it. How do you say it?
Stolichnaya.
Yeah, he's saying it with way more Russian accent than I do. Just give me the Stoli vanilla.
Stoli. So we got the Stoli vanilla, and then we got Kahlua. And so the only Kahlua I could find when I was picking up the recipe or picking up the ingredients for this was a chocolate Kahlua, which kind of goes with the theme because the next ingredient is, instead of using just cream, I used a Bailey's, which is a chocolate liqueur. That's a creamy chocolate liqueur, and then half and half. So kind of a splash of each. So you do fill with Coke and then a splash of each, half and half, and Bailey's. I like to give it a roll because I think if you take some carbonation out, it takes a little bit more milkshakey, goes down a little bit smoother, but it's called Paralyzer because it sneaks up on you. There's a lot of alcohol
Yeah.
in these.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say
And
I
they're
never.
so delicious.
Yeah, that's so good.
So delicious.
I never knew it as a paralyzer. I've always known it as a Colorado Bulldog.
I think that name comes from Canada, so regionally specific information, I think.
Yeah. Well, Anna, do you just
Prove me
want?
wrong in the comments.
Yeah, that's right. Do you just want like a milk for your NA then? For like,
No, I don't want
Or
any
cream.
half
Some
and half.
half.
No, I'll stick to my water.
some
Thank
Coke.
you. I'll take my wet water. Thank you.
we sometimes do. Well, we usually try to do like a NA version of whatever drink we're making. But like we've been,
I think the last time we made a white Russian, I had milk
yeah,
with ice in it.
You did.
you definitely did because I put that in. We've been collecting all of the recipes like from every bar that we've been at and like doing all this. And so yeah, for the NA for that episode, I just put milk.
Let's see. What would I do? You might want to make it like a hot chocolate base instead of Coke, right? Like a hot chocolate with a decent amount of cream in it and maybe like half an espresso shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I don't like coffee.
Well,
I'm highly picky. I'm a picky eater. I don't like coffee. It's just one of those things. So
Yeah, she gave me an entire smoked rotisserie chicken the other day because she didn't like it.
I don't like how it tastes like I like just inhaled a whole bunch of smoke from the fire pit. But
It's so good. I turned it into chicken Alfredo. It was
I'm
awesome.
so glad that you turned that smoked chicken into chicken Alfredo. Yeah, I had a whole chicken. So that leads up to us. Jaden actually works at Bomb Bar, which is a local bar that's
I
downtown.
do.
It's
Me and
where I
Haley
work.
are officially coworkers.
nice.
Yep. And I went down there and visited him for his first shift.
Yeah.
And I ended up tapping my car, backing up, which was so funny. And then I brought a whole chicken. I was like, "You want some chicken?" And he's like, "What are you doing with a whole rotisserie chicken right now?"
Oh,
Well, I'm
man.
hungry, so here you go.
I did eat that
Did
whole.
you eat it at work?
I ate it. Yeah.
Hell
I would
yeah.
like get people drinks and then like just pick off chicken from
Yup.
this rotisserie chicken, then wash my hands.
You went in
obviously.
raw? You went in raw, dog?
Yeah, I
Oh.
did. I was raw dogging
Yeah.
that rotisserie chicken for sure. But it wasn't super busy, so it's not like I was just like plucking out chicken like. And I always wash my hands. I'm very like conscious, self-conscious
They
too
always
about
make
like
fun of me
washing
at
my
Tony
hands.
C's because I eat like a caveman. I just bring a whole rotisserie chicken and I just like take black gloves and just eat and like shred all my
Jesus.
chicken and then put
Yeah.
it on there. Yeah.
She just picked up the
No
entire
way.
rotisserie chicken and
started
just started
eating.
biting it.
I mean, I probably would if I was really hungry.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you with this space and it being a historic building, was there any restrictions on the different remodeling that you wanted to do to the building?
Yeah. So one thing that I was a bit frustrated with, and I think it turned out fine, is that based on the historic nature and their kind of reading of what a historic building looks like, we aren't able to paint the ceiling like the wood.
Okay.
And we also had to paint, this is the part that doesn't make sense to me. We had to paint the bricks. So they're a natural color red underneath all of this white. And that wasn't a choice. They were like, this is the primer that works on bricks and it won't damage the bricks and it will, depending on who you ask, maybe preserve them, maybe not, that sort of thing. But I wanted to keep the natural red. And there is some cinder in here because this is a like warts and all space, right? Like I don't necessarily want to take out the cinder and replace it with bricks so that it looks pretty and perfect. I like the rehabbed warehouse, warts and all, doesn't need, like it needs to have some character. So I don't necessarily want to do that. But the cinder that was in there, we would have like, done a light red to it so that it blends in some. But historical was like in these types of buildings, they were generally painted white because they were used for manufacturing and they just, that was easier for them to maintain for whatever reason. So that's why we're white. And that restriction is going to be in place for 5 years. So in 5 years, don't be surprised if you see these walls dry ice blasted, which is the procedure you use to take paint off of brick and not damage the brick. And if the ceiling gets painted either black or white, depending on what I'm doing there.
I mean, I'm sorry. Would you ever consider doing tin?
Tin on the ceiling?
If you could. Like they have you seen tin ceilings where like they have the ornate patterns and things
Yeah.
like that and they're squares? Would you ever want to do something like that instead of painting it so you can just take them down and like
I don't know. One of my favorite places in Chicago had that treatment, and I really liked it.
yeah.
I don't think it would be friendly to sound in here.
Oh,
The
okay.
ceiling's a
Yeah.
little bit too low. I don't know. So I don't know that would be my first choice, but it is a cool idea. That could happen in the bridal suite, which we're calling the Fur Vault because, of course, you got to keep it named the Fur Vault. So this building, we were talking about this earlier. This building was formerly a French Way Cleaners, which is a what do you call it? Where there's like a McDonald's and another McDonald's and another McDonald's.
Franchise.
Franchise,
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So French Way is a franchise that was around the country. So they had all these different buildings that were called French Way Cleaners, and they were commercial cleaners. So like your hotel would send all of their bedding or their, whatever it is to get done here. But also they had, and we can look at this later, they had fur vaults in here. So your mink coats, your fancy jackets, your hats with feathers in them. I don't know. Do those get dry cleaned?
I don't know.
I was not alive in the 1930s. But so this is the main vault that's up here, and it had floor to ceiling. It had a rack at like shoulder height, and then a rack above that, and then a rack above that. So they could have 3 levels of jackets hanging in this main fur vault. And the walls are made of cork, which is super unique because they had to control for temperature and for moisture. And then, as you guys saw, we have the original like hardware lock, like James Bond 1950s, ear to the thing, trying to open it. And then there's also in the very creepy basement additional vaults, but those are scary and that sort of thing right now. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty cool though. I mean, like just to see all the history back there too is like you can tell like this place. So it was from the 30s, you said.
Yeah, depending on which part of the building you're in, you're talking 1930s and 40s.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then so this was all French way cleaners.
Well, a portion of it. So this part that we're in now was the French way part, and then up there was. Sorry, I'm pointing in a podcast medium. That's great. Up here on the side where the street is, where you can look in and see. A portion of that was like a restaurant at one point and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then there's a big scale too over here that you were telling us that they would measure linens and stuff like that. Or
10s,
50, 100 pounds of linen. And then, they'd clean it and they'd be like, well, that's 13 cents. Since 1942.
Right. Well, this building brings a lot of character though too. So I can't wait to see what you guys end up doing for this venue. I mean, it's not just for weddings.
Right.
And you also do like concerts and things like that. I know that your general manager was saying something about how guys are going to present the location of your guys' next event. Like you're hyping it up and then you tell them the location. Do you know about that?
I don't. Is it an event where like they announce the event and then they release the location of the event at a later time?
Yep.
Yeah, we've done a couple of different events like that.
Cool.
Where it's like we don't necessarily have it on our public facing calendar.
Yes.
So the company that is on the top of my head that does that is called Don't Tell Comedy.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they just put out these Facebook messages and people know that there's, really great comedians that come out for, wherever it's going to be. And sometimes it's in a coffee shop and there's like, they can only sell 30 to 50 tickets because it's a tiny coffee shop. But they can open up all the tickets because we have a capacity maybe 300 here when we do that sort of event. So when we partner with them to do that, it's really successful and we can get a lot of people in here and it's generally local comedians, which is part of my mission. Like I want to keep the doors open doing weddings and stuff like that. But being an artist and a musician myself, I want to make the space available for those sorts of things to happen. I feel like there's other venues that they have great space, they have a great stage, they could use it for those sorts of things, but since they're not interested in doing those things, they don't happen there. But I'm interested in doing more of that stuff, being open more often. And like when I was 18, 19, lower 20s, I would have killed to have a stage that was relatively easy, accessible to be on. So I'm trying to make that available now that I'm in kind of the seat where I can do that.
Yeah, supporting local artists.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What were some more of your non-negotiables? Like obviously the chandeliers, and then there's the private bathroom. Like what else do you have on your list?
Well, I'll go into detail on that a little bit. So because it was called the French Way Cleaner building and people know it as like the French Way building, it feels like a big yuck to me. We're getting married at the French way. I don't know. That does not hit me the right way. Which, there's a lot of places that name themselves like, table 112 or whatever because their address is 112. Like, I don't know. I'm not into that. But I did want to maintain some of the like European joie de vivre sort of thing about it. So French way became what sort of French phrases could I use that people could spell and could whatever. And so that was the genesis of being called Chandelier. And so then the vision became I was going to put a giant central chandelier kind of right where we're sitting under this skylight or maybe up there, but like kind of center over where this dance floor would be. But that kind of shifted and changes as I got into the logistics. So now we have the 3 that are in the back of the room. Those are identical. We're rehabbing a large chandelier that's going to go over this bar, and there's going to be 2 more chandeliers that go in the fur vault, the bridal suite or VIP space. So that's kind of how those came about. And then also we were talking about this earlier. We have all these public bathrooms that, you know, if you're a guest at any public event, ticketed event, or wedding, those would be the ones that you would use. But in our VIP bridal suite area, there's also a private one that no one else has access to. So that'll be like curtained off and that sort of thing, which I think is really important. If you're going to have your big white dress moment, you don't necessarily want to ruin that by, you know, taking a trip around the block and and that sort of thing. So it was very important to me to make that a private bathroom experience, which I had to, you know, for whatever reason, keep telling the contractors over and over again how important it is. And they were like, no, we'll make it Jack and Jill. We'll make it. And I don't know if they were trying to like meet code or something like that, but I was like, it's one place I got to put my foot down because that's important. So,
And so was this your first like actual business venture then too, like into owning your own space and bar?
yeah. So, well, there is one thing I left out of my resume earlier. So my brother and uncle and I opened a bar in, it was called the Lewis and Clark in a small town in North Dakota. And so I went with them and was kind of a manager, so to speak, and worked there and kind of did the whole, like, what's our policy is going to be, what our pricing is going to be, how are we working with our vendors and things like that. So that was kind of the first time experiencing that in a more full scale sort of sense.
Okay.
But other than that, my business experience comes from 17 years of operating as an entertainment company. So as a wedding DJ primarily, banquet service for bar. Most of this was in Chicago. And then also photo booths. So that's kind of where my business background comes from. And I'll say that from what I've observed, just kind of in networking around people who own event spaces and things like that, generally people come from catering or decor when they go to move in and to have an event venue. So I think I have a more unique kind of take in that it's kind of entertainment forward, and that's kind of how I designed the flow of the spaces to be friendly to all those sorts of things. So,
well, and also to kind of go back on what you were saying earlier, I think it would be super cool to do like a hidden venue, like not hidden obviously, but like a secret show or something like that.
Pop up.
Yeah, pop up like that. Well, and I know like other bands too have done that before where they're like, we're going to have a one night show only, like no tickets are being sold. It's like, you just have to like get on this bus at this time and then they'll like take you to the other place. I've always thought that's always been a really cool idea.
Yeah, I was trying to work out something with, do you know the Haunted House Slaughterhouse?
Yeah.
I was trying to work out something with those folks. We kind of were in a little bit too much of a time crunch, but it was right when we were opening. And I thought, like, if you just want to have like a cool experience that's just in one space of these or the others, that'd be a really cool like pop up to do for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
And the same thing, like we're occasionally going to have like vendor showcases here and stuff like that.
Cool.
So actually the show that we have this Saturday, have you guys read A Court of Game and no, A Thorn, a Rose and a Court? No, A Court of Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what
Okay,
you're
all right.
talking about.
I'm going to do a really bad job of selling this book to you guys. So if you're probably a woman who enjoys reading books that are not PG-13.
Oh, are you talking about smut?
I wasn't going to say that.
He's talking about smut.
Yes. So there's this
Oh, yeah.
book that people love, and I think it's called A Court of Thorns and Roses or something along that line. And people love this book so much that they're throwing parties about it, right? So the party vibe is going to be loosely, since you're not familiar with the setting and stuff like that, like Renaissance fair, fairies, that sort of thing. So that sort of thing is happening here on Saturday. And so there's going to be vendors in here. There's going to be like people selling crystals and reading your tarot cards.
Oh,
and,
cool.
and there's going to be a high court and some like entertainment sort of stuff and a magician, going through like a real magician,
Yeah.
So no, it's just, I'm so excited to do such unique stuff here. And I think it's awesome to just be able to be like, yeah, we're going to be a museum for a week.
Yeah,
Like
that's
what
awesome.
restrictions do we have other than what we put on ourselves? And
Right.
I'm really not about those sorts of restrictions. So I'm like, let's be a museum for a week. Let's be a RC racetrack state championship or something like that. I've always thought it'd be super dope to like race drones through here. You know what I mean? Because there's like these, like you could make these things. I don't know. So I'm open to all of those ideas. I love all that sort of stuff. Obviously, kind of our main thing to keep the doors open and what our main offering is going to be weddings, corporate events, birthday parties, quinceañeras, bar and bat mitzvahs, things like that. But I'm like, we have all this beautiful space. Why waste a night off and like let people have opportunities to do cool stuff? So my kind of byline, that is an unofficial byline of the business of Chandelier, is to just let cool people come here and do cool stuff.
Yeah, dude, I like it.
I love that.
Well, and it's so unique too that like not a lot of people would think of like a venue space that way. That's like it has to be this kind of music or it has to be like this or that or the other or whatever. And so like the fact that you're open to anything is like super cool. Cause I mean like, yeah, there is like very special venues that like allow stuff like that where it's like variety shows and stuff like that, or like, you know, a talent show that people
are talking about eating fire here.
Yeah, see, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, well, you got tall enough ceilings, probably. it might set off a couple.
Don't tell my insurance guy about
Yeah, we won't.
Oh my goodness. So what made you want to start your own chandelier bar here? Especially this building. Like what intrigued you to come to this specific venue?
So I'll back up a little bit. So running my DJ company for 17 years, I was like, I cannot be 60 and moving these speakers around. What's the next move, right? So it was either branch out and like manage a bunch of DJs, which I wasn't necessarily excited about that in particular, or the next step is to go into facility, essentially. And so I'd been working on this business plan for roughly 10 years, and I got a Facebook reminder about it. And this was like, I was young, and I knew a lot less than I know now. But I put it out on Facebook saying something like, does anybody have $1 million in their pocket and wants to start a wedding venue with me? Like, I got a reminder of that as I was like going through like looking for financing and stuff like that. I was like, man, this has been a real dream for like a while. So at first I was going to do it in Chicago. Obviously, it's not quite as expensive as people would like. It's just as expensive here as it is there to get space and that sort of stuff. It's not that terribly different. But it didn't work out, moved here, was looking at places. COVID hit. I was glad I didn't pull the trigger back then. And then came back, and then finally it was like, I think this might be the right time. So the original place I looked at was the Ingersoll Dinner Theater. If you're local to Des Moines.
Yeah.
That place is so cool.
It's so cool. It's going through a rehab. So it went through an ownership change. So I had interviewed or had a conversation with the previous owner and just didn't work out, whatever. It's like, oh, it's still cool, whatever. It's not going to work out. That's fine. Then I saw a sign in the window that said ownership change, call this number, whatever. So I call that number, get introduced to the guy. And I said, listen, I want to do something very specific. I don't want to look at your space and imagine what it could be. I want to do a wedding venue. That's what I want to do. And so he said, we can look at Ingersoll Dinner Theater and that might be a match for you, but I want to show you this. And he brought me here and I was like, this is it. Because what I loved in Chicago and being a wedding DJ in Chicago, I saw a lot of different spaces. I saw some very cool spaces. I've DJ'd on Navy Pier. I've DJ'd in stadiums. I've done like lots of different stuff. But what I wanted for my space was reclaimed warehouse vibes, right? And they were pretty common in Chicago. There's only one, maybe two places in Des Moines that have that kind of vibe. And when I came in here and I was like, this is amazing. Like this is what I had in mind. I felt like I was going to have to settle because there probably wasn't as much going on here inventory wise as there was in Chicago. I was like, maybe I'll wind up in one of those strip malls with kind of like, whatever, and not be terribly excited about it. But I got hyped. And so I was like, this is the place. I feel like this is it. Let's start making things happen. Started doing some paperwork. And now we're here.
This podcast is brought to you by
Tipsy Cub.
Oh shit, I didn't say it.
Tipsy Cub.
Anna.
Tipsy Cub. It's awesome. It's a preventative hangover powder. I drink it in the mornings because I'm an alcoholic.
It's packed with B vitamins and electrolytes to help prevent hangovers. It's like a healthy pixie stick.
You can use promo code POUR20 and get 20% off your purchase of Tipsy Cub. And this stuff really works. So definitely get some if you like drinking and not having a hangover. We're officially declaring war on hangovers. We also do a Patreon, which if you are not subscribed to our Patreon, it's only $5 a month, and you get an exclusive extra episode. So I wanted to ask you if you had like any crazy wedding DJ stories or bouncer stories like that, but we'll wait for that into our Patreon.
Release the Kraken.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll save that, but I wanted to tell you now so we can.
I
Like,
got some good stories.
Yeah.
I got some good. You might want to age gate some of these. That's all I'm saying.
So what was the easiest part about getting this space?
The easiest, just about nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, writing checks has become so easy.
Yeah.
Not that they're any good, but man, it has been so easy to spend money. Yeah, it's electrical, and then it's like the stuff that I had on hand that I could use to functionally be in this space was the DJ stuff, right? So I have audio, I have that sort of gear covered, but I had to buy like this very specific kitchen hardware, like tables made out of stainless steel, because I don't know, that's what's normal in kitchens, and they're very expensive and that sort of thing. And then, we got all these cool design elements in the fur vault. We get a lot of comments about the cat portrait.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to take a picture of that.
Right now.
We'll take a picture of it and put it in here.
No, but people really remark on that. But it's easy and fun to spend money on that sort of stuff. That has been the easiest. It's almost been like kid in a candy store, like, oh, I get to make all these. Like if you go to like a builder and they're going to build you a house and you're like, oh, I want that kind of countertop. That's pretty awesome. It's fun to make the choices.
Right.
So I'm getting to make a lot of choices, and that's fun.
What do you think the funnest choice has been? Like the bar? I mean, because Les was kind of mentioning earlier when we got here that there was still like a little work needed on the bar or something like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, it looks great. So I was wondering just what else needs to be done.
Yeah, there's and I don't know if this is going to go in the final, but we were going to have like an overhanging mirror too. Like I forget what bar it is in West Des Moines. It's kind of by the comedy club out there, but they have like
Wellman's.
Wellman's. They have kind of a tall kind of mirror that overhangs, and I just kind of like that vibe.
Yeah.
And then I've also seen some venues in Chicago that would do kind of like a glass treatment on their mirrors. So if it's like Sarah and John, June 2026 or whatever. So we might be able to like figure out some kind of way to do that sort of stuff. So I'm all about those like customizing options. So that's kind of why I wanted to have mirror back there. But I think all that's left is just some like logistics stuff, like running the plumbing, getting the right equipment underneath. Like we have no refrigeration at the moment, so we're doing it kind of old fashioned backyard style. The beer gets chilled with ice for now. But it's just because logistically that's what we have to do for now. And then those things will get put in. So
what other, so you keep also using the word rehab and not renovation. So I was also curious as to what the difference is, I guess.
Sure. So just a little bit ago, some ceiling fell down right over there. And so there was, there's like the building was not functional. Like it wouldn't have been up to code in a way that like you would want to invite people in here.
Right.
And so what that means is the floor is brand new. Like that is what all of this floor looked like. This new wood floor is new, of course.
Yeah.
But you used to be able to see out of the building, like you used to be able to see daylight through that corner of the building. So when I say rehab, that's kind of what I'm talking about, is those large structural components that they're not very sexy, really, but they need to be done in order for the building to be functional, to be safe,
right,
and that sort of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, well, I noticed that. So then I guess I noticed that you were using that word instead. So it makes sense now. But like, I guess what else would you want to add to the space? Because it's like pretty much ready to go. You've already had some events here. So is there something like a final piece that you're still like,
if you wrote me $1 million check, what would I do with it?
I'll write it right now, dude. Look at my Dolce & Gabbana shirt.
Hell yeah, we high class. So since we're recording this in January, it is very cold, but we have a green space outdoors.
Okay.
And I want that to be like European courtyard vibes. I'd love to have like a water fountain or, whatever, like a waterfall back there or something like that, like an ivy wall. Like I want that part to be very nice too. I still have to talk to the city and make sure that they let me have, they don't want me to have outdoor sound. That was really frustrating. Like I went to a city meeting and it was like, I'm a wedding venue and we want to have outdoor ceremony because it's a really unique offering in Des Moines to have like one so like literally right next to each other,
Right.
but to have a space where you have this sort of capacity, like 250, 300 people, but you can also have an outside ceremony and then walk right inside in the metro area. We're not
Right.
talking a barn,
Yeah.
or we're not talking like, event venue where you're like third ballroom of 17 or whatever, anything like that, where they maybe have an outdoor space for smokers, whatever. This would be like, we're going to put a pergola out there, put out nice white chairs and stuff. That's what I want to do next. I'd also love to like put a porch up top. Like I'd love to do that.
That'd be cool.
So those are some kind of big ticket things that I would do. I also want to, this isn't my bottom line. So I don't know how much you guys know about venue operation or whatever, but when we have caterers in, they use what's called a caterer's kitchen, right? So that just means we have warmers, we have coolers, we have freezers. You do what you need to do with the stuff that we offer you. So a real kitchen in a restaurant is going to have a hood and a grease trap. We already have a grease trap because this place was supposed to be a brewery before we got here, like a brew pub, something like that. So the concept had kind of started coming in. But I would also get, and this is for other people, right? Like I would love it if caterers could come in and cook with a full scope and do what they want to do with the with that component so that we could actually have live fire cooking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. So I just want to enable people to do their best work here.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you have to get like an updated like liquor license then or something to do stuff out there also, or?
So they did approve me for outdoor beverage service, but that was in a different city compartment than the noise ordinance stuff was,
okay.
right? So they kind of did it like this hand said, yeah, cool, do that. And then this hand said, but also you can't even play a radio outside.
Right. Is it just because there's like houses right like close
Yeah,
by?
so-
Is that why?
Yeah, and so like I don't know how into the weeds we want to get about this, but this is a mixed district, which means that there's residences close to the venue. And I want to be a good neighbor. That's the reason they put these things in place. Because if this
Right.
was like commercial, then it's like no big deal. Have outside, we don't care.
Right.
But since it's a mixed, like you can literally see a window from outside of the
Right.
the door here, the windows here. And we want to respect those people. So the city has these ordinances in place that say if you're XYZ feet from this place, then you need to have noise ordinances of XYZ. And so what actually happened is they went a step further and just said no outside sound allowed.
Okay.
And that was kind of like preemptory. I was like, could you give me a chance to do bad first and then
Right.
like,
Right.
or just let me prove that I'm not a problem? Because
Right.
like functionally, what I want to do at most events, at most weddings, is to have a ceremony at like 5:00 outdoor. Then there's no more outdoor sound,
Right.
or it's just like small speaker sort of whatever. And I don't mind shutting it off at 8.
Right.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if we could.
You
like,
can work
have
together on
have
it.
a back and
Compromise.
forth about that, then
Yeah, correct.
that I
Compromise
feel like that would
on all
be
that.
reasonable for everybody.
Definitely.
So
Have you
just
asked your neighbors? Like, have you gone over there? Have you, like, what they say? They're like, oh yeah, sure, we don't care.
yeah, most people. So we have this Highland Park, Oak Park neighborhood is like the business owners here are all grouped up, right? We're gang. Everybody is pulling for this neighborhood to do better. There's been a lot of investment in this neighborhood. There's new owners coming in. There's 2 new bars coming in. One's like a tequila bar. One's like a basement like cocktail bar.
Nice.
There's a Lachelle's coming in over here. So all of us
cool.
are like, we're all pulling in the same direction. So
Yeah.
those folks, like once we got to know each other, they're like, yeah, we'll write a letter. We'll do, that's good. There was like one guy who came to the meeting who thought we were still going to be a brewery and was like, I don't know about this beer stuff. And like that was like primarily the extent of the objection, right? Is that there's going to be people loitering and unsafe things happening and stuff
Right.
like that, which I get is a concern. You have to voice your concern when you have a moment to do so. It's your civic duty to do those sorts of things. There's nothing wrong with that. I get it. But also businesses need to do what they're going to do. And, like I said, I'd rather be allowed to show that I'm a good actor, first and then deal with it if that's not the case. But it's going to be the case.
Especially since you have 16, 17 years underneath your belt for being a DJ. Obviously, you know how sound works and noise ordinance would work too as well.
Right.
I think you'll eventually be able to get it.
We
Fingers
will.
crossed
Yeah,
for you,
I
though.
think so. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Definitely.
Yes.
If you're watching this now, sign the petition below. Just kidding. Well, okay. And you mentioned good actor, which I think is a good segue. Because do you have background in theater?
Yeah. So my background in education is that I have a music performance degree.
Okay.
So I was a singer. I studied bel canto, which is a fancy way of saying like I sound like an opera dude.
Oh, nice.
Because that was kind of the only option I had when I wanted to study voice in college. There wasn't like a jazz vocal performance,
Yeah.
whatever. It was just like you sing opera, or you just,
Yeah.
or you become a music educator teacher, which is fine. I didn't think that was my path. I wanted to do performance and stuff. So with that came, being in music theater and being in operas, and I was in a rock band in Chicago.
Nice.
Which is very fun. Still some evidence of that online if you look hard enough. But
Oh, we'll find it. What was the rock band name?
it's called It Is What It Is. Kind of
Nice.
our two main jams were called Missed Connections,
Okay.
which was, if you remember Craigslist, there was a missed connection section.
Yeah.
I got a big scoff from behind me, Mike.
No,
Do you have a missed connection story, Mike?
we.
Brilliant.
I've just found out what missed connections were like in the last like 2 years or something, and then now it's like I feel like I see them all the time. Especially like I'm in a lot of like the festival group chats and stuff
Sure.
like that on Facebook, and so sometimes they just crack me up where it's like we made out by this like big inflatable mushroom or whatever, and then it's like and I never got your name or phone number, and then it's like.
God.
Do you remember me? And then it's like thousands of likes, thousands of shares.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, so I wrote a tune about that being on a Chicago subway line and having a misconnections with the gal there. And then the other one, appropriate for this podcast, was called Lime and Salt. So.
Nice. There you
That's
go.
awesome.
We'll be putting all that into this podcast right here.
Not necessary. Not necessary.
Click the link below.
Well, the main reason I asked, and this is another good segue here, is because you were signed up for Pour Wars.
I
and
was,
So
yep.
we can, and when we had talked about it, you had mentioned like, you're like, I'm probably not going to do very good, but like, I'll put on a really good show.
I'm willing to go and be a showman.
Exactly.
I think that's the way I put it. Yeah.
So that's what made me think like, oh, I wonder if he has like experience doing like,
Yeah.
performative stuff. But because Haley is also an actor. Where
I've
you,
done musical theater most of my life.
Nice.
you studied at like Juilliard or something
That's
like that, or like
That used to be my dream when I was little. But
Really?
no, I didn't go to school for it. I just did it professionally for a little bit. But
Cool.
yeah.
yeah, pretty cool stuff. But yeah, let's we can talk about Pour Wars a little bit, and then go into it. So like, what was your guys' overall thoughts of Pour Wars? We had our Pour champions.
I really wanted Carla to win, but I'm just glad that she placed.
Yeah.
Because, just having her and her thinking that she wasn't even going to be placed or
Right.
wouldn't win the round that she did, she was just very ecstatic. And she definitely interacted with the crowd the most. But
Yeah.
I really wanted Carla to win. But again, I'm glad that
Yeah.
she placed.
Right before it started, we had a little pep talk in the bathroom because her friends weren't there yet.
Oh,
And she was
yeah.
gonna back out. She's like,
Oh,
all over to
no.
tears. She was like, I can't do it. And my friends aren't here. No one's here to support me. Like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, Carla, you have to do
Yeah.
it. Come on, you're already here. Like the first round is like super simple. It's gonna be so much fun. And then she got third place. So.
Yeah. I think my favorite was Josh this guy he texted me in that morning of Pour Wars and was like, am I signed up for Pour Wars? And I was like, you sure are, dude. And he was like, oh, I forgot about that. I'll be there tonight. And he showed up plastered.
So
Oh, man.
drunk.
So drunk already.
Like can't see straight.
Yeah, and so that's what I loved about our competition is that it was like speed. It was like a speed bartending competition. So it
Yeah.
wasn't really based on the like how well the cocktails were. It was just like how quickly you could do everything and
Sure.
how accurately. And so yeah, he was one of those people. I was like, there's not a chance he's gonna make it into the second round, and he
Guess
did,
what?
and he did.
did.
He was like one of the top pourers.
I tell you, there is something about state-based learning and bartending
Yeah.
that is not a joke.
Yeah, for real. Because a lot of the other people were like, oh, I'm going to kick ass in this competition.
Yeah.
And they were eliminated first round. And
Yeah.
so it's like,
It was very interesting. It was like
Yeah.
an experiment.
it really was.
Yeah.
And that's what I think I liked the most. I think if we could do it again differently, I wish we wouldn't have eliminated so many people first round. But other than that, like it was still great and it all worked. It all worked really well. And we definitely had to figure out when we're going to do another one because a summertime one would be really fun.
Well, with
be
one of
fun.
the judges, I had a conversation. I was like, how close was everyone? They were all really close.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them were, Carla was the only one that was like on point, and all the
Yeah.
rest of them were like,
Or
no.
she was like the closest, I think.
Alicia was .002 over.
So she was, yeah,
Crazy.
two
Okay.
thousandths of a gram off
Yeah.
from her.
That's insane.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, from an ounce and a half pour. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
But there was a lot of like unfamiliar faces and familiar faces, and I was like, surprised with the turnout.
Yeah.
It was packed in there.
Yeah.
People like just watching.
Yeah,
and
it was
to have
so
many
cool.
people sign up. Like,
Yeah.
I think
awesome.
the only thing I would change is that the way that people could see us.
Yeah.
Because people wanted to see us, and we got so busy and so packed with a bunch of people.
yeah, we might have to consider a different bar in the future.
I don't know. You're sitting in
I know. I was just
Yeah.
thinking this could be a
pretty cool
great
spot
spot.
with a guy who's got kind of an open mind about that sort of thing.
Exactly, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. So our next
Oh, shoot, we're nailed down.
That's
No.
like
No, I
the
love
only
it. That
thing. Because I
seems
wanted
fun.
to have people see us, and I wanted, like, I had one of my regulars come and they had a sign.
Yeah.
And I didn't even see the sign because we were busy commentating.
Yeah.
Commentating.
Well, and this would be perfect too, because I mean, we have the whole stage is there. There's more space for people to see and stuff like that. And so, yeah, we'll definitely have to figure that out and see if we can do something here.
Put our heads together, see if we can come up with something.
Definitely.
It'd be a lot of fun, especially with the amount of room that we have now. Everyone can actually sit and be comfortable and like
Right.
actually see everything and
Yeah.
hear us project.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think overall it was a really good time, and to even have this podcast be as successful as it is, it's really cool. You know, you never know until you try, kind of like how you are a DJ and then now you own your own venue. You never know until you try.
Yeah.
And that's a really big thing. I'm a huge advocate of that. And thank you to Michael and Heather and everyone, and our sponsor Chase Stein, who actually helped us put on that day as well too. You know, it takes a
did.
lot. It takes a village, and we had all that, and it all worked out. And especially for being our first time, we didn't really have
Yeah.
anything go necessarily wrong.
No, there were
Yeah.
didn't seem to be like any hiccups or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Like, stayed on schedule and like
Right.
it ran pretty smoothly. Like
It
I
really
was
did.
very impressed.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we'll have to figure out too, like maybe if we do different rounds or different competitions in between each round. I
Yeah.
do like most accurate pour though, because
Yeah.
that was like it
That-
shut up a lot of people real
Oh
fast.
yeah, it did. Oh yeah, it did. But I guess I just want to say thank you to everyone that came.
Yes, thank
and
you.
thank you to Tipsy Cub for being a sponsor for that. Same with Chase Stein and things.
Yeah,
It was a lot of fun, and
It
it's
was a lot
just
of
cool
fun.
to see something that is an idea to come to life. So yeah, thank you.
yeah, and we hopefully will do another one here in the summer sometime.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I think we can get into our douche of the week. This is our final segment. So douche of the week is like, it can be a person that was a bad customer. It can be just a pet peeve that you have or something that just annoys you. That is your douche of the week.
Oh man, we're not really doing that much stuff. I might have to go like back into the log.
Yeah, it
book
can be.
to
Yeah,
think about stuff.
It can be something from the past. Too.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. Do you guys have one? With dry January, it's been so slow
Mm-hmm.
at my bar, but I haven't, other than people coming in like already super drunk.
Yeah.
Dry January can be your douchebag of the week.
Yeah,
I guess.
that's a pretty good. That's a pretty good douche of the week. A bunch of quitters out there.
I had to block one of my regulars. I
On
had
the phone or
on,
like
on my
socials?
on my phone. He is a really nice person, but like when he gets drunk, he sends me like really weird stuff, and it's like paragraphs of things. And he came in because I told him like, hey, like I don't think it's appropriate for you to be texting me about stuff. Like when you're drunk, I'm going to block you, and the only time you can talk to me is in person when you come into the bar. And he's like, okay, yeah, cool. So then he comes in, and this was on Monday, and he asks me, he goes, can I ask you a serious question? I go, yeah. And he goes, did you seriously block me? I go, yeah. I go, I can't have you texting me. It's not appropriate, especially when you get drunk and some of the things that you say to me, and I've already talked to you about them and you still do it. And he goes, well, just give me another chance. I go, no, I've given you several chances, and like, I just can't do this. And what really sucks about that is that he is a kind person. I do care for him. I just can't have him sending me things that he's been sending me, and we'll talk about what he sent me on Patreon. But he got really upset, and I think I almost made him cry. But that's a boundary that you have to set with some of your regulars, and sometimes you shouldn't feel guilty. I mean, I did feel bad, but I don't feel guilty for placing that boundary on that person, because some of the things that he was messaging me, it's like, oh my God, like I feel like I have to call someone to make sure that you are okay 9 times out of 10. And that's really scary. And I can't be worrying about people like that, especially if I'm not with them or if I'm at work. So, but that's my douche of the week, is blocking a regular when I really didn't want to, but I had to. So.
Yeah, I don't have too many of my regulars' phone numbers, to be honest.
Yeah, I learned a lesson early on that I don't give out my phone number anymore.
Yeah.
Like you can follow me on socials and maybe
Yeah.
message me on there, but I don't want you to have that
Right.
access to me.
Yeah.
That did remind me, I did have one of my like old regulars that he stopped coming in because it got awkward because he kept asking me out. And I at one point gave him my phone number, and I hadn't heard from him. It's been like months. And he texted me, I guess it was his birthday the other day, and he's like, I was wondering if like anything changed and you want to go out now. I blocked him. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck. It's still a no. Now it's really awkward.
Yeah, but like, doesn't he know that you have a boyfriend?
Yeah. He's just checking in.
Yeah.
You know?
Sometimes you gotta shoot your shot.
Dude, nobody ever checks in with me, dude. I swear. You guys like to talk
Same
about-
OG.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you know what I learned last week? You know how you say that like when you go to give people water and they think it's like horrible?
Yeah.
Tell them you're gonna give them a melted snowman or a blue dolphin as a drink.
A blue dolphin.
Yeah, I learned this the other
Yep.
day. Yeah, I had some people come from out of town and they were telling me, hey, get this man a melted snowman. I was like, what?
That's funny.
And he's like, just give him a water. Just call it a melted snowman. I was like, awesome. Or they
Blue
call
dolphin is what we used to do when
Yep.
it was like, we want to cut someone off, but we
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to say, shot for you, blue dolphin for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. So maybe try that.
Yeah, okay.
I thought that was, I was like, that just stuck with me and it resonated. So I've been using that a lot lately.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
Yeah.
Or if I just put a lime on the rocks glass with water. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
cocktail.
Club soda and
Yeah.
a lime.
Yeah.
That'll do the trick.
yep, that too.
Yeah, I don't also, I have to cut off too many people, I guess, but I've only been at Bombard for the one shift
Yeah,
so
you
far.
will.
So like, I'm sure it'll happen
will.
here soon. Well, and I was going to say that too. I guess my douche of the week can be that, I feel like working downtown, like I kind of mentioned this before the podcast, but like working downtown compared to working in like a suburb is like day and night different because like there's this expectation downtown of like, you have to like tip more because like drinks are more expensive or something like that, which I'm not complaining about by any means, but it's just like crazy to think about like that, where compared to like working at a restaurant where you're serving food and drinks and all this other stuff, like they're not tipping as much. So it's like, it just kind of rattled my brain. So I guess that's my douche of the week is when people like tip more at bars that don't serve food compared to places that are actually
Yeah,
like
that's-
doing more.
That's
I
weird.
guess.
The what I've always kind of gone by for tipping bartenders is a bucket drink.
Right.
I mean, I think that's pretty
It's a pretty standard.
normal-ish.
Yeah.
It's tough to be like, oh, that's a $16 drink, so I'm gonna give you $1.50.
Right. Yeah.
Versus like, oh, that's a beer.
right.
Like I'm gonna give you 75 cents. I don't know. It's just a bucket time.
yeah.
You got to serve
Yeah.
people and that sort of thing. So I'm gonna go into the vault, and I have two douchebag things that kind of came up as we were talking about. One is peanuts.
Oh, okay.
I don't know a lot of bars that still do this, but the
Yeah.
one that I did at Borrowed Bucks Roadhouse, they served
Throw their
peanuts, and let's like, there's a garbage right there.
Yeah.
We give you a full basket and an empty basket. What do you think the empty basket is for? It's like on the ground. So we'd have to clean up at night, and that sucked because it's like you could tell people, and they still would just do whatever they're gonna
Yeah.
do. So that stunk.
Well, because like that's it. Texas Roadhouse, isn't that all they do? Is like you just throw it on the ground?
Not anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not
It's been a
anymore.
while since I've been to Texas Roadhouse.
Because people have peanut allergies.
Oh yeah.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah, but I
figured,
think I don't know if you can still get them or not. I mean, they sometimes they bring them to you in like a bucket, like a silver bucket,
Right,
And
yeah.
then they have like an empty bucket, but I don't know if they still do that anymore. I haven't seen it for a while.
But I just remember that like when I was a kid, like walking through and you could just like step on all of the like. I was how the hell
Yeah.
do you guys?
Yeah.
Does this not bother everybody? Is it just me?
Yeah.
And then what was your other
the other one
week?
was, and this is again, this like I'm speaking like an old man, but I'm only 40. But like,
So is our producer.
but it used to be Jaeger bombs, right?
Yeah.
So do we still do Jaeger bombs?
Oh, yeah.
So we used to have these like specialty cups that was like it was this shape, and then it fit the thing in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you put Jaeger. We had different varieties of it, whatever. Jagermeister in the middle, and then on the outside, and then you drink them or whatever. But then people would do, and it's the same thing as the peanuts. It's like we could like they were quality enough that we could reuse them. So we'd take them off the tables and wash them, and they'd get reused. But other people would just think, I'm gonna throw this on the floor and smash it.
Yeah.
But this was again where it was like this was a club, and people were trying to be cool, and
Yeah.
people were trying to
Yeah.
be all about it. But that was very not cool. So-
Yeah. Were they plastic still, or were they like?
yeah, they were like heavy duty plastic,
okay.
but they'd still like.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think if I would get these, I would like my first thought would be like, oh, I need to throw this away.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
throw it away too. Yeah, they were like somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Because like
Nice
we were at a club, and it's like nobody's getting glass.
Right.
Nobody's getting glass in this place
Ever,
at
yeah.
all, ever. But they were higher quality, so that we could wash them and reuse them. You didn't have to have so much waste every night from these. So
Yeah. Well, I think with that, we can wrap up our podcast here at Chandelier with Josh Law. Thank you again for letting us be out here and do this with you. And we'll get into our Patreon. So make sure that you are subscribed to Patreon, and make sure you follow us on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. And do you want to do a shout out here too? Do you guys got socials that you want people to follow or anything?
yeah, so we're on Facebook and Instagram. Both the handles are at Chandelier DSM.
Okay, I can't wait to follow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
Awesome.
tag you guys in our story. Also, we have shirts.
Oh,
Our
yes.
link-
Oh, yeah. I
our
forgot
link
about
is
that.
live, yeah. We
Yes,
have
our link
shirts.
is live. So we'll be posting that as well. It should be on our link tree. Either it might be right now, I think. But yeah, well, it's definitely on there somewhere. But yeah, no, make sure you follow everybody, and thanks for listening to Poor People Podcast. And we can do our little sign off here that we always do.
Ready?
Yeah.
For richer, for poor. Thanks for watching Poor People. Proudfoot.
What?
Proudfoot would